Thank you for taking your time to talk with us today. The International Society for Stem Cell Research is excited to see such a significant recognition and endorsement of the current and future clinical application of stem cell research. And such a grant really demonstrates that stem cell research is coming of age as a field, and it's something to be celebrated by researchers and clinicians around the world. So, we have, as a society, one of our goals, one of our four strategic goals is clinical translation. And you serve on a task force to engage in conversations about what we can do in that particular area. And so it's a topic that we're very serious about. I think we'd love to hear you talk a little bit today about the significance of this gift for the next generation of scientists.
Well, I think the significance of this gift is it's not just for scientists, it's also for physicians. And this is the bridge that we needed. So in terms of the gap between science and the clinic, it's been able to really bring physicians and scientists together so that we can speak a common language and put the patients first. And so what Denny Sanford clearly recognizes that we need to do more of this, and we need to be able to accelerate our translational pipeline, but we can only do that if we set up these strategic collaborations. And so by giving this really remarkable gift, he's really bolstered that kind of activity. So our complete plan is to make sure that we marry the bench to bedside idea with the people, the talent that is behind all that work. And so we have a lot of talent in the lab, a lot of talent in the clinic, and in many places, never the twain shall meet. Here, Denny's plan and our plan is to bring them together and have a clinical center that really focuses on regenerative medicine strategies. So that will include cellular therapies, where our strategies are not only initiated by activities here at UC San Diego, but also continuously informed by those scientific activities. So we'll have the reverse translational component. So if things aren't working well, we'll be able to go back to the bench and see why that is. If they're working better than we expected, again, we'll be able to go back to the bench. So it's sort of this circular strategy that we're going into the clinic, and then we'll be able to go back to the bench to figure out how to tweak it to make it even better. And that really depends on having a very robust infrastructure of people. So what I'm so pleased about with this gift is he's put patients first. Rather than patronizing and saying, well, you just have to take what there is at the moment, which is really substandard for most of these degenerative diseases that we'd like to target, neurodegenerative diseases like ALS that Larry Goldstein has championed together with Mark Tuszynski and a number of other people here in other centers. We also want to focus on cancer and eradicate the cancer cells that have co-opted stem cell properties. We call those cancer stem cells. We've still got a long way to go in terms of devising combination strategies to eradicate these dormant cells. So what I really like about this gift is he understands things almost from a patient perspective, that they need better diagnostic information, better prognostic information, and much more effective therapies. And so he's put his money where his mouth is, so to speak, and just decided to invest in people. So rather than, putting his name on a big new building, this is all about investing in talent and making sure that we communicate. So it's really a really momentous occasion. And so I think it's a great day for patients with degenerative disorders that regenerative medicine may be able to help.
It truly is, yes. Can you tell me what sorts of tools you think that young scientists are going to need in order to be able to bridge the work that they're doing to the clinic?
Well, I think that the tools at hand at the moment in terms of, when you look at regenerative medicine strategies, if we're talking about cellular therapies, include diagnostic techniques to see if that cell that's derived from a more primitive stem cell has recapitulated the functional capacity of the type of cell you would want. So those tools are part of a burgeoning field. And so we're still in the process of building these tools as a community. But I think we need to be more rigorous from a regulatory standpoint in terms of what we'll accept from a safety point of view. And so the tools will have to be, something that would be almost templated. So we would say, this is what we require for safety. So those tools for determining safety and practicality in the clinic will be important to implement. And I don't think that we need to keep reinventing the wheel. I think we can look at the same metrics for a number of different cellular products. I think sequencing will play a role. I think we have to look at the potential for tumorigenicity from these cells. So we have to know, even if they become tumorigenic, and nobody wants to talk about that, it's always the elephant in the room, we can shut them all off with the same techniques we've used to eradicate cancer stem cells. So I think that the tools really, or the most important tool is education, collaboration, and being able to work with your colleagues continuously so that it's not I've got the ball now and I'm not passing it. This is really like a soccer game. We're going to be passing the ball to each other, and we have to get used to a new kind of science where it's far more collaborative and team oriented. And so we're used to doing that in medicine because we have subspecialties. But I think in science we need to introduce that model and have it really gain hold so we can actually bring these brilliant discoveries that scientists in the stem cell field are making to the clinic with alacrity.
Catriona, how do you think that the ISSCR can help facilitate that process?
Well, I think that the training program is great that ISSCR has spearheaded to try and get people trained to do translational research or to think about it. It's not an afterthought. It's not, it's like the difference between being an architect and an engineer. An architect can have great plans, but if the engineer said that's not structurally sound, it'll never happen, then it's not going to make it as a building. Similarly, if you don't have somebody who's had experience in translational research, give it the practicality look and see if it passes the look and feel test, it probably won't get to the clinic. And then in the clinic, we have regulatory people and physicians that say, nobody's going to sign up for that. But the most important part is to get the patients involved. So I think the California Institute for Regenerative Medicine has done a great job of including patients in the granting committees because they know what they're willing to accept. But also, if you want an expert on the disease, find a patient who's had it. And then they will tell you more about the biology than you ever expected. So there's only a limited amount of information that we can derive from our reductionist model systems. I think ultimately we have to get to patients to say, what do they need? What do they worry about? And how can we fix it? And so if you have the consumer telling you what they need, then I think ISSCR could play a main role in determining the course of our next 10 years of how we deliver these regenerative strategies.
Catriona, that's great advice, I think, for us, and I'd really like to thank you. I really appreciate all that you're doing for the ISSCR. You joined us last month as a presenter at our regional forum in Suzhou, China, and you will be an invited speaker at our annual meeting this next June in Vancouver, and then, as I said, you are participating with us on this task force on putting together a clinical translation training course. So we just really need people like you, and we need clinicians who are willing to get involved and to really help bridge this particular science. So thank you.
Thank you. It's a real privilege, and I very much appreciate being involved.
Thanks, Catriona. Okay, I'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.